Despite repeated assurances from the ruling United Party for National Development, UPND, that it is committed to transparency and good governance, recent remarks by Chief Government Spokesperson Cornelius Mwitwa have reignited public debate over the persistence of corruption within the party's ranks. Speaking in a candid interview, Mwitwa acknowledged that corruption remains a challenge, even under the New Dawn administration, though he was quick to clarify that the issue is not unique to UPND but rather symptomatic of systemic flaws embedded in Zambia's governance structures. Mwitwa's comments come at a time when opposition figures, particularly from the Patriotic Front (PF), have intensified their criticism of the UPND government, accusing it of sponsoring controversial legislative bills and manipulating institutional processes to entrench its hold on power. One such example is the recently deferred Bill 7, which PF MP Brian Mundabile described as a strategic move by UPND to shield itself from accountability. In response, Mwitwa argued that the PF's narrative is rooted in political desperation and a selective memory of its own tenure in office, during which corruption scandals were rampant and largely unaddressed. The spokesperson emphasized that the current administration inherited a deeply flawed system, where abuse of power and lack of institutional checks had become normalized. According to Mwitwa, the UPND is actively working to dismantle these entrenched practices, but the process is complex and requires more than surface-level reforms. He pointed out that while some individuals within the party may be implicated in corrupt activities, it would be misleading to label the entire organization as corrupt. Instead, he called for a nuanced understanding of how corruption operates within Zambia's political ecosystem, often transcending party lines and manifesting through bureaucratic inertia, weak oversight, and legacy networks of patronage. Political analysts have noted that Mwitwa's admission, though measured, marks a significant departure from the usual defensive posture adopted by ruling party officials. By acknowledging the existence of corruption within UPND, he has opened the door to a more honest national conversation about accountability and reform. However, critics argue that such statements must be backed by concrete action, including the prosecution of high-profile cases and the strengthening of anti-corruption institutions like the Anti-Corruption Commission, ACC, and the Financial Intelligence Center, FIC. The broader context of Mwitwa's remarks also reflects the tension between political rhetoric and institutional reality. While the UPND campaigned on a platform of change, promising to restore integrity to public service, its first years in office have been marked by mixed signals. On one hand, the government has introduced measures aimed at improving fiscal discipline and transparency, such as publishing procurement data and revising public finance laws. On the other hand, allegations of nepotism, selective justice, and opaque dealings in key sectors like mining and infrastructure have cast doubt on the administration's commitment to reform. In this climate, Mwitwa's framing of corruption as a systemic issue rather than a partisan one is both strategic and revealing. It suggests that the UPND is attempting to shift the narrative from blame to structural diagnosis, positioning itself as a reformist force navigating a historically compromised system. Yet this approach also risks diluting responsibility, especially if it is used to deflect scrutiny from current officeholders or delay urgent reforms. Civil society organizations have responded with cautious optimism, urging the government to match its words with action. Transparency International Zambia, for instance, has called for greater independence of oversight bodies and the depoliticization of anti-corruption efforts. Meanwhile, media watchdogs have emphasized the role of investigative journalism in exposing wrongdoing and holding power to account, especially in a context where institutional checks may be slow or compromised. The political implications of Mwitwa's statement are also worth examining. By admitting that corruption exists within UPND, he may have inadvertently validated opposition claims, thereby fueling their campaign narratives ahead of future elections. However, this could also be a calculated risk, aimed at demonstrating the party's willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and distinguish itself from previous regimes that denied or concealed corruption at all costs. From a governance perspective, the challenge lies in translating this rhetorical openness into systemic change. This includes reforming procurement processes, ensuring merit-based appointments, enhancing whistleblower protections, and fostering a culture of accountability across all levels of government. It also requires political will to prosecute offenders regardless of their affiliation, a test that has historically proven difficult for Zambian administrations.